Today you see 3 woven skirts, super cute, different styles all within the same pattern. They're sewn in a similar way, but they have different features that are going to make them look all different. Hi sewing friends, my name is Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have some skirt sewing for you. Now this is a brand new pattern from Love Notions. It's got a lot of styles within the same pattern. All the different versions are sewn in a similar way. You get different looks and different styles, different lengths, so there's a lot of value in this pattern because you can get so many garments that look different while it's still being the same pattern. The skirt is called Encore. Love the name, always a musical name when we have woven patterns at Love Notions. These are all woven skirts that come in 2 lengths at the knee and a sort of mid-calf ankle length, depending on how tall you are. There are 4 skirt variations: pencil skirt, pleated, A-line and full. They all have different panels. You have 3 panels on the front, 3 panels on the back. There's a curved waistband, an invisible zipper on a hip, and then the pocket construction you'll see on the side front panels is so easy. It's one of the easiest ways you can sew pockets, so there's no stress there. And then depending on the type of skirt, whether these panels are going to be wider, fuller or narrower, the pleated skirt version is super cute. That one is sewn just a little differently to the other ones, but once you have the pleat sewn up, it's sort of similar to the other ones as well. Because the Encore skirt is a brand new pattern at Love Notions, it's going to be 24% off through next Monday the 25th of December through Christmas. If you use my code LPN at checkout, you get even more because you get 10% on top of sale prices. So it's a really good idea to use my code if you want to pay even less. As always, I've created a lot of helpful content for you. Find my affiliate link down below in the description box and in the pinned comments. Easy for you to find, just click there, it'll take you straight there. I make a small commission, you don't pay anything extra, and that's one of the ways you can support my work here on YouTube. The Encore skirt has been designed mainly for woven fabrics, medium weight, bottom weight fabrics, denim, corduroy, velvet, canvas, linen, some wool suiting, some cotton sateen. All those fabrics are going to work. In theory, you could use structured knit fabrics as well, like Ponte Roma, Scuba, maybe some Liverpool. I have not made any in a knit fabric. If I did make one in a structured knit fabric, I'd probably skip the zipper and just pull it up, because usually you can do that with knit fabric. I haven't tested it. I've just made it in woven fabrics because I love sewing woven fabrics. I like having woven skirts, and there's so much of that in my collection because it's usually the fabrics I'm drawn the most to. One of my versions is a medium weight denim. It's not the heaviest, stiffest of denim, and my other 2 versions are linen. One is heavier than the other, one is a solid, one is a print. I want to mention a little asterisk here about prints. One of my skirts is made with a print. It's a pretty busy print. I didn't really need to be mindful about matching up any shapes. There are quite a lot of seams in the skirt, so I was quite happy to use that print. I would probably think about 100 times before using a plaid or a stripe, because they could get really messy with all the panels, especially the pleated version. It would take quite a while to get everything to match up horizontally. So if you're in the correct mindset and you want to take the time to match up all these seams with that type of print, go ahead. I wasn't, and I don't know, I tend to think plaid in these types of skirts can look a little more juvenile, just my opinion, but you do what you like. I'm just mentioning, if you have that type of like a wool plaid in mind, just make sure you have a lot more fabric than you think you need, because matching up stripes can sometimes make you place pattern pieces not in the way that's going to save you fabric. One of the reasons why I don't sew that type of fabric that much, and the other reason because I just don't like plaid or checks. I do like stripes, but I just didn't go for stripes in this way, because even if stripes were vertical, I would still have to match them in some type of way, and I just was not up to it. Another notion you need for your skirt is an invisible zipper, anywhere from 7 to 9 inches long. You also need a bit of interfacing, fusible for your waistband. I also like to put interfacing on the hip side where the zip is going to be, just to stabilize the fabric there a bit more. You also need to stabilize the pocket entrance, so you do need a little bit of that. I keep moving because the sun keeps changing. About the sizing, it comes from extra small to 5X. It's designed to hit at the natural waist, the waistband. Nice and snug, not that snug at the hips, and then depending on the style, you're going to have different amounts of ease at the hips. This is designed for a woman that's about 5'5" in height. And as I mentioned before, you have a knee length and a longer length version. These are things you can always modify. You can always make the skirt as long or as short as you want it to be. Now, when you choose your size, look for your hip first. Then check your waist. You might need to blend out or blend in. Easy to do in all the lines that you have there, so that you end up with your size at the waist, because it is snug. You're gonna have a minimal amount of ease at the waist, you know, maybe no half an inch to an inch of ease at the waist, which is how this type of skirt should be, or else it will just end up pulling down a little bit. If you make the pencil skirt, you're gonna have about 2.5 inches of ease at the hips. If you make the A-line skirt or the pleated skirt, they both are going to have about 3.5. And then the full skirt option is going to have a lot more ease, about 10 to 11 inches of ease at the hips. So it's all different. They all snug at the waist, and then depends on the style how much extra you have further down. I made a size extra large with no changes. I didn't need to blend sizes between anything. My waist is between the large and the extra large, but I just sewed an extra large because I don't want to have such a tight waist. So I'm happy with my choice. I did size down there. And then for my shorter length versions, I made them an inch longer than the knee length, so that they are above the knee, otherwise they'd be too short. And I made one longer skirt version. For that one, I added 2.5 inches so that it reaches sort of just above my ankle. That's the length that I want. So no, you can always play with that and make it the length that you want. Now for the sewing, I have filmed the main construction for you. I have a separate video that you have already seen maybe about the invisible zipper. I decided to make a separate video. An invisible zipper is a general technique, not only belonging to the Encore skirt. When you need a very detailed tutorial on an invisible zipper, you can go ahead and find it on my channel, and that's going to work for any pattern, not just the Encore skirt. So have a look at that video for the separate technique. And in here, we're going to see everything else but not the invisible zipper. We're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance because these skirts have different shapes. You know, if we're doing an A-line or a full skirt or a pencil skirt, we have different shapes in the panels. That pocket piece is also going to be different. There's going to be different pattern pieces for the pockets for each of the styles that you're sewing. So that's something that you need to be aware of, that you're matching the right pocket to the right version that you're sewing. My example is on woven fabrics. I'm using a straight stitch everywhere.
In this tutorial, I'm showing you how to sew the pencil skirt, A-line skirt, and the full skirt. They're all sewn in the exact same way.
Let's see how to put the skirt together. Super fun. These are the pattern pieces for the pencil skirt. The same concept applies to the A-line skirt and the full skirt. It's going to be the same type of pattern piece. It's just that these start getting wider as we get into the A-line shape, and then even wider for the full skirt. This is the side front piece. That's where the pocket entrance is going to be. It's shorter than the rest of the skirt pieces because the rest is going to be completed by the pocket piece that goes behind it. This is the pocket piece. It's quite large, and it'll be folded into itself, and it'll make the pocket bag in itself and complete the rest of the hip area there. Very interesting technique. Please don't skip interfacing the slanted pocket opening on the side front skirt piece. It's really important. If you don't do that over time, your pocket could start stretching out and deforming, and it'll be the same for all the versions. Pleated, A-line, full, pencil, it'll be all the same. It's just that the shapes are going to be slightly different. This piece here is the side back piece. That piece there is the middle piece. This middle piece will be the same for the front and the back, so I have 2 of them there. And then we have waistband pieces. It is one pattern piece that you cut 4 times in pairs. So that pair is interfaced. That will be the outer waistband. The inner waistband, 2 as well right there, are not interfaced. We also have a zipper, invisible zipper right there. I am going to be using an invisible zipper for this version so I can film how to do it. It'll be in a separate video. Otherwise, for other versions, I'll be using a center zipper insertion, and this zipper is going to go on a hip seam. You will have different pocket pieces for the different shapes of the skirt. For the full skirt, for the A-line skirt, you're going to have a different pocket piece. So make sure you have the correct pocket piece for the version that you're going to sew. The construction will be the same. It's just that the A-line shapes are going to go slightly wider, and the full skirt are going to be even wider, but it'll be exactly the same way we sew them together. Before starting anything at all, I'm going to be stay stitching the waist sections of all these panels. I don't want these to stretch out. These pieces are slightly curved, and I do want the waist to match the circumference of the waistband later, so this is really important to me. Seam allowance later is going to be 1/2 inch, so I'm just doing this at around 3/8, so it's within the seam allowance. These are the two side front pieces. I've got them here mirrored. In between here, there's going to be a middle section. We're going to put this together because this is the panel that's going to have the pocket. You can see the slanted edge. On the wrong side, that area is interfaced for about 2 inches. Over here in my hand, I have the pocket pieces. The pocket piece is also going to have a nice slanted edge, and then the other edge is going to be narrower and curved. This is the edge that's going to go on the waist, and that's the edge that I stay stitched just now. I have made some marks on the wrong side. There's a line here, there's a few little dashes, there'll be triangles on your pattern. So find the one that matches the slanted edge and place them right sides together right there. Make sure the marks on your pocket are facing up so that you have the wrong side of your pocket piece facing up. These two layers are right sides together, and you can see the slanted edge matches right there. So this is what we're going to pin together and sew. I'm going to be sewing from this side, so I have the interfaced layer on the top because it's the most stable area, and we'll just get this sewn with a 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides. I've got both of these sewn. I think a 1/2 inch seam allowance is a little large to leave in there, so I'm going to trim some away. If you extend this now, this is the main skirt piece. This is the pocket. It's going to be folded in like this. Now what we need to do, if you want to, you can just neaten this up, press it, and top stitch using a 1/4 inch. I am going to do that, but I'm going to understitch first. So pushing the seam allowance underneath the pocket bag, if you look at the interface side, it's going to be completely extended. I'm going to be sewing on the edge there. That's just to make sure my pocket bag is never seen. And then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. To understitch, I'm going to be using my blind hem presser foot with a needle to the left. That gives you a really neat edge stitch. On this side of the pocket, my pocket bag is on my left hand and my skirt piece is on my right. Seam allowance is tucked underneath the pocket piece. There's understitching done so that pocket bag is always going to stay inside. And now I've pinned it right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the top stitching at a 1/4 inch. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch presser foot to make it all neat and easy. Okay, this looks very strange, but this is the side front piece, the first layer. The layer underneath is the pocket bag. That's actually longer than the side front piece as we look at it. This is going to be the waist area of the skirt. So let's flip it so that we see the pocket on the top. What we need to do is fold this pocket piece up until we see a line. This line is marked on the pattern. You're going to also have marks on the skirt piece right there. These are supposed to match up, and they do match up perfectly. Again, I have the pocket here, the skirt piece is underneath. These are wrong sides together right there. This is the right side of the pocket bag. Fold this over, start moving it along until you find your line, and that's where this is going to be folded, and this is going to end up being the pocket bag itself. It's made from the same fabric, so make sure you align the line where it's folded to the lines on your skirt piece and pin this right here. It's as easy as that. That's all. That is how easy doing this pocket is. And then we're going to keep pinning along this area. It's going to have the same shape. Here we have a line on the pocket. When you look at it on this side, it's going to be exactly where the pocket entrance starts on the other side. So that should match up, and it matches up perfectly. So make sure you do all your little marks and you'll be okay. It's so easy. Now that everything's in its place, all we need to do now is baste along the edge within the seam allowance just to keep it in place, and then we can treat this as one piece. This is going to be the side front piece, and the pocket is going to be already done. If we look at it from the right side, we're going to have a side front piece with a slanted pocket opening. This is going to be at the waist. We put our hands in and we finish there where that fold is. The pocket bag is made up out of the same fabric, so it's so easy. I mean, there's no easier pocket than this. Another little mark you'll see on the pocket piece on one side, other than that line that showed you where the fold is, are these two little marks there and there. So those are going to be together. I think you can ignore them if you want to. If you get the fold right, this is going to be right, but it's other little references that are going to show you you're doing the right thing. And you can see the fold is going to reach that mark there that's on the skirt piece. Here I have the 3 front pieces next to each other. These are the side front pieces. We just worked on the pockets there. And then this is the middle. This middle piece is the same for the front and the back, so I just grabbed whichever one. Ignore that printing there. I don't know why that was printed on the fabric. I never noticed when I cut it out. I can see the outline, the pockets go like this. So on the hip area, you're going to have more distance here. and then in the middle it's going to be shorter. So make sure your pockets are slanting like that, slanting down. I'm going to put a little line there on the screen so you can see. That's how it's supposed to be. The outer edges are going to be the hip right there. Now on one side, I'm going to have an invisible zipper later. You can choose what side the zipper is going to be best for you, the right or the left. I think it doesn't make any difference. In my case, it's going to be on my left hip over here, but it could be on your right hip. That's why there's a little bit of interfacing there in the area that's going to have the invisible zipper. Main construction is just uniting these pieces now, sewing them at 1/2 inch seam allowance. The seam allowances are going to be pressed towards the center, and then we're going to edge stitch. I have already serged the seams on the side that are going to end up on the side seams, but not these. I've been pinning, and I want to show you some marks that you'll find on the pattern. This is the side over here. On this seam, just a little distance after the waist, you see a little notch right there. It's a triangle mark on the pattern. I just mark them as little lines. It's going to match the one on the other side. As you go down, you're going to have this fold of the pocket that's going to match the line on the other side. And that's how it's so easy to put it together. When you look at the skirt like this, with the right side of the fabric up, you're going to have the slant going down towards the hip. You have more distance here than you have there. Here on this other side, it's all the same marks are always going to help you put everything together. So I'm just going to sew these two seams with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then I'm going to clean them up at the serger. Here you can see my seams have been cleaned up with a serger. I'm going to be pushing these seams towards the center panel. I'm going to use my blind hem pretzel foot with the needle to the left, and that gives you really neat edge stitching without much effort. And about the edge stitching, you can definitely wait and do that later after you've tried on the skirt. In my case, I have already made one, so I know this fits, so I don't really need to try it on again. So I can just go ahead and edge stitch. The issue would be if you need minor adjustments and you already did the edge stitching, it could be hard to remove and fix your seams. Here are the 3 panels for the back. Remember, the middle piece is the same that you use in the front or the back. I've just chosen one to go here. These are the side back pieces. That is going to end up being on my left hip as one. Again, I've serged these side seams there. Now these seams are going to be sewn together. It's easy to match up because on the middle piece, you're going to have a little triangle, a little distance after the waistline, about 2.5 inches, and you're going to have one on this side to match as well. Just pay attention to the marks that are going to match over here and over there. On the hip area, the first triangle on the pattern comes way down, like a good 6 inches below the waist. What I did, so it would help me, when I was cutting out, I immediately wrote with a chalk here, hip, on the other side, hip. So then I don't have to spend time thinking much about it. I know this is the side seam, and this other edge is going to be sewn on to the middle piece there. Now that both the front and the back skirt pieces have been assembled, I've just put them right sides together, and now we're going to sew only one side seam. It's going to be the side seam where the zipper is not going to be. You can clearly tell that's the side where my zipper is going to be because the hip is partially interfaced right there. The zipper is going to end up on my left wearer side, so this will be my right wearer side, but you know, you could sew the zipper wherever you want. The technique will be the same. What's important is that you just sew one side seam and you leave the other one open. So I've just pinned it. I had already serged this previously. So this will just be a 1/2 inch seam allowance and the seam pressed open. After sewing that one side seam, I have the skirt all extended here on the table. And up there, you can see the 2 waistband pieces. The outer waistband is the one that's interfaced. The inner waistband is not interfaced. We just had to sew one of these little seams so that the waistband is all extended like that. That little seam is going to match the side seam over here of the skirt. It's the same for both of them. So the main one is just extended like that. This will be on the outside of the skirt. The inner waistband, as you can see there, has been folded in by 1/2 inch towards the wrong side. Now it's easy to know how this goes. You can see there's a slight curve. On the bottom edge, you're going to have 2 marks that are going to match the seams of the skirt. That's how you know this is the area sewn onto the skirt, the longer area. The shorter one is going to be the top of the skirt. So now that both waistbands are united there and that one's partially prepped, I'm going to put them right sides together, matching the seam, and sew the waistband pieces together all the way through the top and then understitch. Here I'm sewing both waistband layers together. The outer waistband is the interfaced one. I have that one on top. is how it's looking so far. Now the next step is to understitch, so we want to extend this. Push the seam allowance underneath the non-interfaced waistband and sew right there on the edge. Once the whole waistband unit is complete, we can sew it onto the top of the skirt. It will have exactly the same length. We have the outer waistband right there. All we need to do is flip it over right sides together, match all the little reference points and sew it all together there. Here is the waistband pinned to the top of the skirt here, right sides together. You can see the interface layer is the one that we're pinning on. The other one's just hanging off there. And along this waist, you're going to have several marks. That one matches the seam exactly right there. This one matches this other seam. Then we have the side seam. Then we have another little mark that matches perfectly. And another one over here. So everything's good. I think stay stitching the waist is super important to get this to match. This could in essence stretch out, especially if you're trying on the skirt, moving the fabric around. So I would always suggest stay stitching. And then everything's going to match up nicely. Now I'm just going to go ahead and sew this together, and then we're going to have a completed side area here. The zipper is going to go all the way up to there. After sewing on the waistband, I trimmed a little from the seam just to make it a little smaller, not that much. And now I'm pressing the seam up towards the waistband all the way along. This is the other side seam, the one that's still open, loose. The zipper is going to go in this area that's interfaced, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. It'll be in a separate video because sewing an invisible zipper is a general technique. And when I sew this invisible zipper, I'm also going to finish sewing this side seam as part of the process there. Now that we have this edge neat and everything finished, we can just pull the zipper up, and that's how that finishes right there. Super neat. Now we still have to finish the waistband. That's super easy. We just need to neaten this all up and finish top stitching and fixing that in place. All I did now was spend some time hand basting. I pinned it all, made sure this fold covered that seam. This is the inner waistband, the one that was loose, that was folded in previously, and everything's really neat. Now all I'm going to do is top stitch here from the right side of the skirt. I'm sure it's going to catch the other side because I've hand basted it really neatly in place. This is my pencil skirt. It's a pink linen. It's gorgeous. This was left over from a shirt I made in the same linen. I always knew I had enough left for a skirt, so I could wear that together eventually. This is a picture of my shirt. It's really cute. So now I have a set. I haven't styled it like that, but eventually you'll see it styled together. And here it is. It's super neat. This is the one you saw me sewing. The wind is blowing it away a bit. Here is the slanted pocket entrance. This area is all interfaced, as you saw, and my fabric is all pink everywhere. This is not a heavy fabric. At the back we also have the 3 panels right there. In general, super easy to put together. Let me show it to you from the inside. As usual, I did a hand hem. I just like the look of a hand hem. It looks so clean. I would do a hem by machine if this was a print. For a solid, I never regret the extra time it takes to do a quick hand hem. Now my fabric had this print on the wrong side there. I never saw it when I bought it, you know, I didn't see it when I washed it. I just cut it out. I'm so glad it was in a place where it's not too visible. But yeah, ignore that. It's super neat. The waistband is sewn in, very neat. Here is the invisible zipper on one of the hip. I think you could put the zipper whichever side feels more comfortable to you. I know right hand people and left hand people have different preferences. What's easier, you know, for you to have access. I just ended up putting it here on this side on my left hip. Can be on your right. Seams are pressed open here on the sides. I didn't top stitch those, and it's all very neat. That's how the pockets look inside. You have that fold. There is a line clearly marked on the pattern piece which tells you where the fold goes, so it ends up being super easy to put together. Let's see this one styled a few ways. This is my first Encore skirt in a pink linen. It looks sort of reddish on screen, but it's a lovely pink. All the Encore skirts you'll see are size extra large. I've styled it super simple with a black top. It's a pencil skirt version. There are many other versions available. Mine is 1 inch longer at the knee length, and there's a nice amount of ease, about 2.5 inches, so you see it's not a really fitted pencil skirt. Up close you can see I've tucked it in a little bit so you can see the slanted pocket openings. The pockets are super comfortable and have a nice space there in the side panels. And then on the side seam I have my invisible zipper. I placed mine on my left hip, just personal preference. You can place it on whatever hip is easier for you to access. And it's a lovely skirt. It's going to be a workhorse. It fits really well. It was easy to put together. I always knew I was going to pair my pink skirt with this blouse. I've made this blouse years ago and it's lovely. It's a chiffon and it's got a little ruffle detail at the back, a little hack. Because this is a pencil skirt and there's not much volume to the skirt, I think I can pair it with a blouse that has more volume at the sleeves and at the hem. I think it's a really happy mix here and I'm really happy with how this looks. It's really, really summery. Another style that's a bit more sporty with white sneakers. This is my white terra tunic, also from Love Notions. This is very casual, very laid back, and I really see myself wearing this a lot as well. I love the combination of the pink and the white. My second version is not a pencil skirt, it's an A-line skirt and the long version. I did not bring that skirt with me on this trip. I brought minimal amounts of clothes. For this one I used a linen with a really nice print. I filmed the section of me showing you the skirt at my home in Brazil, so I'm going to insert that over here. It's a really nice animal print. It's a linen that's 70% linen, 30% rayon, so there's a little bit of rayon in the blend. I love the feel of it and how it drapes. It's a little heavier, perfect bottom weight fabric in my opinion. This is an A-line version. The panels, the construction is all the same as the others, it just goes a little wider. And if you make the knee length version, it's not going to look as wide as the longer version because it just keeps getting wider as it goes longer. And this is the long version. This is the only long skirt I made. I did add a few inches to make it a little longer than the original length, so it's at my ankle. And I love it. You know, with the print you can't really see the details, but you would have seen the details with the solid versions I made. The pockets are all the same. I use the same fabric for the whole pocket piece here because I had plenty, so no worries there. In this case I put the zipper on my right hip. I have a centered zipper insertion here instead of an invisible zipper. This is my preferred way of putting in a zipper. It's just as neat and I feel it lasts a lot longer and it's just easier to manipulate, go up and down, you know, I just like them much more. I have my curved waistband here. It's all very neat. And then because this is long and I have something with long skirts, I've just started using them in the last couple of months again after not wearing them for over 20 years. So I need to have an opening. I need to have a vent, a slit. I need to show my leg in some place, hopefully in the front. And then it makes me feel like I'm wearing a short skirt even though I'm not. So I just chose one of these panels. Doesn't matter which side. This ends up on my left knee and I just left extra seam allowance there when I was cutting out and I just left that seam open. It's as easy as that. I have a little mitered corner there and it was super easy. I knew I wanted my hem allowance to be an inch, so I just calculated and left myself a little more seam allowance on that area so that it would be all even over here. And there's no science there. I mean, you can add a slit any way you want. It's still the same pattern, still the same skirt, and I just feel happier having some ventilation and part of my leg showing as well. Because this is a print and it's pretty busy, I didn't do any top stitching on the seams, and from the inside it looks super neat. I have a normal seam allowance up to the slit and then it just goes a little bit wider. And it's something I thought about when I was cutting it because I knew I was going to do this little fix right there. As soon as I decided I was going to have a long A-line skirt, I always knew there was going to be an opening there. It's a hack you can easily do to your skirts if you like that. If not, just sew it as normal all the way down. I really love how it turned out. Such a pretty skirt. I'm so happy I did that little slit. Let's see that one styled a few ways as well. This is the A-line skirt version that's also available in the pattern. This time it's a print in linen. Didn't need to worry about matching any shapes. There are quite a few seams, and you can see I've added a little hack. On one of these panels on the front, I just left extra seam allowance and left it open as a slit so I can show a little bit of my leg there. It's something I would always want with a long skirt, both for movement, for ventilation and aesthetic purposes. And I've paired it here with one of my Juliet tops, also from Love Notions. It's really comfortable. You can see the waist fits snugly, but it's not super tight. I have a centered zipper insertion there on one of the sides. For this longer version, I added 2.5 inches to the original length of the long skirt version, just so that it's at my ankles. I think length is personal preference. You can adjust to whatever you prefer. And I really love this longer skirt. Here's another dressed up look. I show you several because it's actually the way I would like to dress. I have these gorgeous heels and a basic black top. I've used a lot of the same items to combine with 3 of these skirts, and I've got a little tuck on the side so you can see the details of the waistband. With this one, I used the same fabric for all the pocket bag. I have the curved waistband there. Everything's the same. It's just that this one's A-line. There's a little bit more space in the hips compared to the pencil skirt. Animal print linen I had lying around was just waiting to be a skirt like this. I see it as a neutral. So even though I've paired it with black here, I know I can do other combinations as well. The next look is a little more unusual. It's more of a winter look. As I see this grey as a neutral, I've just used a green sweater on the top, a matching scarf and bag. I think you can use grey with any colour. For the footwear, I used these combat boots. I could have used my regular boots to make it look a little dressier, but these boots are so comfortable. And what's important for me here is that the skirt is a little longer than the boots. I think that's okay. I know I'm going to wear this one in the winter as well. Remember, my winters are very mild. I can still wear linen in the winter. I wear it all year round. But I know that's not the case for everyone. And if you want a skirt for winter, make it out of a wool suiting or something warm and you'll be really toasty. And here it is paired again, same combination you saw with my denim skirt with the black cami and the black Metra blazer. Gorgeous heels. I love these heels because they don't have a strap around the ankle, so it just makes the leg look longer like that. I love that. I really could not have made a long skirt without the opening on the front. That's an easy hack you can do as well if you like to do that. The seam is there just begging to be a slit, and it's such an easy change to the pattern. I can't wait to wear this skirt out in real life. It's just so beautiful, and I'm so happy I started wearing longer skirts this year. Turning point. The versions I've just shown you, the pencil and the A-line skirt, are all sewn in the same way. The tutorial you just saw shows you exactly how to put together, easy peasy. Now the third skirt I made is a pleated option. Once you sew in the pleats, the construction continues as per normal, but the pleats have a few extra steps. So I have filmed that separately on my denim skirt version. So let's quickly see how to put the pleats together. These are the pattern pieces for the pleated version. So they look a little bit different than the other ones, but once the pleats are in, the construction is going to be the same. The same with the other versions. We have a middle panel, which is going to be the same for the front and the back. Then we have a side back panel over here, which is plain. And then we have a side front panel, which you can tell the difference because the pocket is already in. The pocket is sewn in the exact same way, and the fold of the pocket bag ends a little above this pleat area right there. I think with this version, it's easier to see how this goes together because we have the same type of shape here. This shape is what is going to form the pleats over there. Now, one difference I have with this version, up there you can see a curved shape. I have modified the top parts of these pattern pieces here and added a bit more length up so I don't have to use a waistband, and then I've drafted a facing instead. You can see the facing is curved and it's going to follow the shape of the skirt. When I wear the skirt, it's going to look the same. The facing is going to be inside. No one's going to ever see it because I don't tuck in. And it's just another different way to finish the skirt up on the top. Every single pattern piece has been serged already. everywhere, including these horizontal areas for the pleat. It's important that this is done before constructing the skirt. To show you how the pleats come together, I'm going to join one of the side back pieces to the middle over here. So I'm just going to pick these and join them up on this shape here, right sides together. As you can see, they have the same shape, and we're going to do 2 seams from the top of the waist down to there, and then from this part down to there. This seam over here is going to go slightly below that horizontal seam right there. There's 4 of these on the skirt. They're all sewn in the same way, whether it's the front or the back. I'm just showing you the back here because it's easier to see without getting distracted by a pocket being here. So we have this seam over here. Now this horizontal area, I want to sew up to a hair below that, about 3/8 of an inch. So I've drawn a line right there with a chalk. The way I'm going to do it is just going to make it easier for me to press the pleat. So from here up to the mark, I'm going to do a regular stitch length, reinforce, and then from here down I'm going to keep going with a basting stitch. The way I'm going to get it really straight is by measuring the seam allowance here. The seam allowance is 1/2 inch. I know exactly where that dot is there, and then from here to the edge I've measured the same distance so that I can go straight down with a basting stitch. Then I'm going to head to the iron and press the seam open so that I get a really good memory crease on this basting stitch right there. Then I'm going to go ahead and sew this little seam over there and finish pressing it. I've drawn a line down here with a friction pen so that I know where to sew nice and straight down below. There's my yellow line. Up to there I'm going to reinforce. Now I'm going to do the longest stitch length I have and follow my mark there on the friction pin. Now I'm at the iron ready to do this memory crease here on the pleat. Having this basting stitch is going to give me a really accurate fold. So now that I have this seam pressed and I have the crease really well marked with the heat, I'm going to bring this back over, and now I'm going to go and sew this little seam over here with the same seam allowance, 1/2 inch. I've got the seam sewn. I'm going to press it open here just to mark it a little. Now I want to bring this and center it over this seam that I have over here so that it forms a pleat and it's distributed evenly. You can see the seam allowance is continuous with the other one over here, and then we have the volume of the pleat to each side in equal amounts. That's why I wanted to base that pleat in place fixed. Now I'm going to put a bunch of heat on it again. I'm going to sew down the pleat from the wrong side because I can see what I'm catching. It's nice and straight. I'm going to use that serged edge as a guide and just sew across right here, and that's going to hold the pleat down. Okay, there is the stitching. It's pretty subtle. My thread matches the denim really well. Remember, this bottom part is just a long stitch length, so it's going to be easy to open up and expose the pleat underneath. You can get hold of a thread. Sometimes it's possible to just pull it and get everything out. It doesn't always work, but this time it did. And there we go. There is the beautiful pleat. The pleat is very well pressed. In the middle of the pleat we're going to have that seam, and there we have it, one pleat. So once you sew that pleat, you saw me sew one, you have 4 of them to sew. Once you have the front and the back ready, then you can just keep sewing your skirt as per usual. Now I did 2 little hacks on this one just because I wanted to have a little bit of fun. If you notice, this pocket piece is quite a large piece and it's all made from the same fabric. Because this denim is a little heavier, I wanted less bulk in there. I also have quite a nice amount of that denim left to make a jacket, so I wanted to use as minimal as possible. So I just did a little hack where I divided that pocket piece into a top area with the main fabric, and then the bottom area is just a quilting cotton. I have that little hack over on my Patreon page as exclusive content. The other little hack I did to my skirt was not sew a waistband and draft a facing instead. I did film the footage for that, but I'm not sharing it in this opportunity because I'm preparing a larger video where I do that for pants and a skirt. But you know my famous videos, do something 3 or 4 ways. You'll see that in a little bit. I'm still preparing that content for you, but it was super easy. It still fits the same, it still looks the same. I never tuck in, no one will ever know. It's just that my skirt is a little higher to account for what the waistband was, and then I drafted a curved facing inside. It was a very fun and easy hack. I had time and I wanted to do it, so I did it. You saw how I sewed the little pleat right there. You just saw me sew one. It's the same everywhere. I think sewing the pleat all the way down with a basting stitch helps you press and get you a really nice and neat memory crease there. The way I like it, it's top stitched right there so the pleat doesn't go anywhere. And this is the front. Inside you can see I have quilting cotton in there, the wrong side of the quilting cotton. I like doing it like that because no one's gonna ever see it, and you know, if you understitch and everything, no one's ever gonna know. And then I have the main fabric only up to there. That means that my pocket piece was very small with the denim instead of having that larger piece. Now for this one, I did a center zipper insertion. It's really neat. I prefer it. At least I have one version with the invisible zipper. Okay, inside we can see my facing. It's interfaced. I've done some hand sewing to hold it down at every seam allowance because we have quite a few areas. The facing is going to stay inside very neatly. It's understitched. It was so easy. I mean, and it feels so comfortable. The zipper is in there. It's like inside the facing as well, right there. When I do these pocket hacks, I like having the pretty side of the quilting cotton so that I can see it on the inside. It can make me happy. If I sewed it in another way, then I would have wrong side of the quilting cotton here. But anyway, if you're on Patreon and you have access to my exclusive content, you can see this little hack there. Otherwise, you can just sew the pocket as per normal, and there you can see each of the pleats inside. They were super easy to sew. Once you get them done, then you just sew your panels together like normal and just make your skirt as normal. This one is also hand hemmed. I always like that. I love this skirt so much. It's like a dark grey, light black color. It'll go with everything. I brought it over on my trip because I know I'm going to be wearing this a lot. It goes with any top. So yeah, I'm excited to have it. I did not have any skirt like this. I really enjoy it. Let's see it styled a few ways. This skirt is the pleated version that's available in the pattern. I used denim for this one. It's a medium weight denim. It's 1 inch longer than the knee length. There's also a length available that it can go all the way down to ankles. And in essence, it looks like an A-line skirt, but with the pleats added there in the panels in the front and the back. Easy to put together. Really enjoyed this one. I know with this color, it's going to be a workhorse. It's going to go with everything. And I love that it still looks semi-fitted at the hips, but then you have that extra volume where the pleats are. Very pretty. I love it. Very simple styling with a black top. Now if I tuck this in, you'll see I've done a little hack. Instead of a waistband, I've drafted my own facing. I modified the top of the skirt and raised it a little and then drafted a facing to match that. It's curved inside. Very comfortable, and it was very easy to sew. On the side seam, I have a centered zipper insertion, just a regular zipper, not an invisible zipper. It would be my preferred type of zipper, especially for denim, so no one's gonna know. I never tuck in. I can get in and out of my skirt, so as long as there's a zipper there, I don't think it really matters whether it's an invisible one or a centered insertion. This is a willow wrap dress that I made as a peplum top instead in a sweater knit. I love the tones of the sweater knit with the greys. I've got some grey booties. I think with the booties it goes really well. This is a winter look for me. I wouldn't layer on top, put a jacket or anything like that because my winter is very mild. I think that because the sweater is fitted at the waist and has a peplum, I can still get away with wearing a skirt with a little more volume at the bottom. I love it. I love this look. Here's a more dressed up look. I would definitely wear it like this with the heels and, you know, my workhorse Metra blazer in stretch suede. I wear it all the time with a little cami. This time I have tucked the cami in so you can see the waist of the skirt. Really lovely look for a more dressed up occasion. I think you can dress up with denim if you want to, especially this one because it's not blue denim. This is one of my Lincoln tops I made in a sweater knit. It's a really lightweight sweater knit. I'm wearing it without any layers underneath because it's really hot at the moment. I've got some really cool metallized leather shoes there, pointy. I think it's a nice casual look. I could walk around all day in these flats. You know, the skirt has a bit of volume, but it's more at the bottom. So I think this length of top I can still get away with. And I really love the Lincoln top. It's so cool with all those buttons. Really love them, enjoyed them. I have 2 here, but you know I have the 3rd one back home. I know I'm going to end up making a whole lot more. Remember, skirts don't have to be just for summer. You know, these skirts can be for all weather. You can make it long, make it in a wool, wear boots and tights underneath. You can be really warm in a skirt as well. Don't forget to check out the Encore skirt at Love Notions. It's on sale through next Monday the 25th. On Christmas Day, last day of the sale. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am super happy with my skirts. I know I'm always going to be happy making skirts because I just love them so much. Maybe you can give them a go. If you think skirts are not for you, you might change your mind. I'll see you soon and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.